We're going to have Tarpley on for about 15 minutes. Webster Tarpley, an expert on al-Qaeda leader, dined at the Pentagon just months after 9/11. Fox News exclusive. And, of course, Tarpley's been talking about Anwar al-Awlaki forever, being one of the master dupe handlers. This is big news, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to be talking about that with Webster here in a moment. I first wanted to play just a few minutes of this clip. It's followed up by everything that the engineer running for Senate in Kentucky covers. And the video is up on prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. Aaron Dykes wrote a big article about it last night. West Virginia Senate candidate questions foreknowledge of WTC collapse in live TB debate. Jeff Becker, running for the Senate in West Virginia in the Constitution Party. And this was on C-SPAN. But the issue here is the courage of this individual and the fact that if you run for office, governor, state senate, U.S. Senate, whatever, you get into the debates, the town halls, the local TV, the national TV. And if you watch C-SPAN these days, every time I do, and I get sent the clips constantly from YouTube, people upload it, they'll take 15 calls in a row saying 9/11's an inside job. Every time they've got the former head of Homeland Security or Israeli intelligence, I mean, anybody goes on these shows, they get bombarded. That's freaking the system out. And they just, independent line, 9/11's an inside job. Republican line, 9/11's an inside job. Democrat line, 9/11's an inside job. And they're articulate, they're informed. The system's got a problem. So they come out and announce 9/11 truth is dead. We've discredited it. Like it's like everybody knows the moon is made of cheese. And weak-minded people, you know, these aren't the droids you're looking for. Move along. These aren't the droids we're looking for. Move along. Move along. It's like a Jedi mind trick, but it only works on the weak-minded. And so I just wanted to play this clip before we go to Tarpley because we're dealing with 9/11 and stage terror with him here briefly. Here's a few minutes from C-SPAN where they bring up, what do we do about defense, fighting the Muslims? And he goes, well, this whole thing's fake. And he goes over it. Here it is.
I think we need to first take a look at what happened on September 11th. There were actually 3 buildings that collapsed on September 11th. World Trade Center 7 was 2 blocks away from the Twin Towers. I think this is important to consider because it was not rained on by any debris. It was just a 40-story building. And at 5 p.m. on 9/11, Jane Stanley, the reporter for the BBC, was standing right in front. Was standing at ground zero and reported that Building 7 had collapsed, when in fact you could still see it over her shoulder. And then 20 minutes later, it did collapse. This is foreknowledge, and it needs to be investigated. Additionally, Larry Silverstein, the owner of World Trade Center 7 complex, before 9/11 had taken out a multi-billion-dollar insurance policy to protect his property against a terrorist attack. And then in 2002, on a PBS station interview, he said that he gave the order to pull it. Pull it is a controlled demolition term. More evidence of foreknowledge. These are facts. You can watch the interview. You can look. You can get the BBC footage. How did the British know 20 minutes ahead of time that this was going to happen? This needs to be investigated. There is a preponderance of anomalies surrounding the events on 9/11. Architects and engineers, over 1,000 degreed and licensed architects and engineers have looked at the information, and there's so much information that needs to be, that doesn't make sense with the official story. The only way for the official story to make sense is if the laws of physics had changed on that day. And I'm an engineer, and I can tell you that they did not change.
Mr. Becker?
Okay, then it cuts to all the videos from mainstream news of exactly what he talked about. That's an important article because more people can then imitate what he's doing, and they can't stop us. Even if they try to shut the web down, people run for office, you're going to be on television, you're going to be able to talk about it being an inside job. And remember, 9/11's been used to launch all these wars, to take your liberties, to set up this control grid. Now, recapping this, we're going to talk about with Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer coming up. I got a sneaking suspicion that Fox was leaked this information. I wonder where it came from. Exclusive. Al-Qaeda leader dined at the Pentagon just months after 9/11. Anwar al-Awlaki, trouble with his name, Anwar al-Awlaki, may be the first American on the CIA's kill or capture list, but he was also a lunch guest of a military brass at the Pentagon, including the Secretary of the Army. Now, he had already been in the media. They'd said that he was behind 9/11, but there he is at the Pentagon. And this is the guy they say is behind the Fort Hood shooter. This is the guy behind the Dud bomb in Times Square. This is the guy behind the underwear bomber. And in every case, the underwear bomber, the government got him on the plane on record without a visa or passport. Our government. The State Department admits that. I mean, this is crazy. And it's like George Bush Sr. meeting on the morning of 9/11 in a Carlyle Group function, London Guardian, AP, with the head of the bin Laden family at his table. It's now they say Bandar Bush is running the al-Qaeda attacks. Bandar Bush, the guy on C-SPAN, the ambassador from Saudi Arabia, the guy on Larry King Live 2 days after 9/11. I mean, it's insane. It's just they're right out in the open that they're doing this, and they stage pure terror attacks like 9/11. Then they have other events where they have handlers that go out and find mental deficients. They always have low IQs. They're on welfare. They look drugged, like the underwear bomber. We've only got him for this segment and part of the next because he's got a tape with Genesis, his own Saturday show that's taped every week, World Crisis Radio. Webster Griffin Tarpley, doctor of history. He's also an economist and author. No stranger to this radio show. Webster, good to have you here. We have the headline, Al-Qaeda mastermind invited to the Pentagon after 9/11. We have our other headline, Al-Qaeda is a front group for the U.S. military-industrial complex. I mean, this is so out in the open, Webster. Tell us about Al-Awlaki.
Well, if you look at my website, Tarpley.net, my nickname for this guy is Al-Awlaki, the CIA lackey. I think that makes it easy to remember. So he's Anwar al-Awlaki, and he's a provocateur working for U.S. intelligence, and he's part of this gaggle of murderous thugs, but of course also provocateurs. In other words, people who are used for political purposes. And typically what Al-Awlaki, his past, if I can just reconstruct it off the top of my head, he was in a mosque in Northern Virginia, where I think a couple of the 9/11 alleged hijackers, the patsies for that, were attending. And then he was over here in Maryland, and there he got connected to, I guess that must have been Major Hassan. And later on, then, he's connected to the underwear bomber. Now, connected simply means that if you have a patsy that has reached the point of ripeness and maturity to do something, and you want to deploy the patsy as a kamikaze in some way, you want to be able to say, if you're the U.S. intelligence community, that this was al-Qaeda doing it. So the way you do this is to have them exchange emails with Al-Awlaki, the CIA lackey, and then you can say, aha, again, we told you so. It's al-Qaeda. They do exist, and they do act. Now, as far as I know, Al-Awlaki is in Yemen. And he's in Yemen because it was a commitment. You could see it about a year to 2 years ago. The U.S. wanted to build up branch offices of al-Qaeda, and they needed to make this credible, right? There's al-Qaeda in the Maghreb because they want to attack Algeria and Tunisia and maybe Morocco and places like this. But they also wanted to have al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, in Yemen. And the reason to have it in Yemen is that Yemen, of course, is strategic because it happens to control the exit from the Red Sea. In other words, most of the traffic that comes out of the Suez Canal has got to go down the Red Sea and then out into the Indian Ocean by Yemen. But the other advantage of Yemen is it gives you a chance to run destabilization operations into Saudi Arabia, which is something you have to do from the point of view of these people at certain times. So if you have al-Awlaki in Yemen, you can argue, aha, there's al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. And the other thing is, in order to make sure that they had some members, this was the case where they let some people out of Guantanamo. The people who had been rotting away in Guantanamo, and they said, all right, fine, we're going to let you out. You go to Yemen. And then, with a wink and a nod, they said, of course, you've got to swear not to become a terrorist again. And, of course, they said, yes, we'll do that. And then, of course, once they get over there, they disappear and they join al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. All of this is completely planned. In other words, this is a bloody theater. It's a farce. It's a dog and pony show. It's designed to dupe people. And the idea that Al-Awlaki is there, I mean, it reminds you of these things like, you know, Bin Laden treated in a U.S. military hospital in somewhere in the Gulf, right, around the time of 9/11. It simply shows the intimate links between the intelligence and the military intelligence people and this stable of patsies and provocateurs, double agents, who these are the winning ones, right? Al-Awlaki, I'm sure, knows what he's doing, but then the people that he's working with are psychotics, fanatics, mental deficients, drug addicts, and so forth, sort of human pawns that they're quite expendable and can be used. And the idea that, you know, they would kill, the big brouhaha, of course, is that Obama says that he's got the ability to kill Al-Awlaki, the CIA lackey, whenever he wants. Well, this is also not unheard of, right? If Al-Awlaki overlives his usefulness, then he can be liquidated in some spectacular way.
And Webster, to quantify this, it's very elementary. And for, you know, adults out there that don't understand what problem, reaction, solution is, you've got a $2 trillion plus overall defense budget every year, enriching all these groups. And if they want to invade oil-rich, opium-rich areas or key strategic zones, they're going to need to have an enemy. And so they stage a terror attack, and then in the next 9 years, they go and run these Muslim Brotherhood-type brigades that are handled by these criminal types to stage events, to stir up mentally ill people, to carry out events, always as a pretext to invade the next sector or to project force into the next sector. And so we see Al-Awlaki handling everybody. They need to put in the naked body scanners they'd already ordered that were being delivered in December and January. Boom. They get a mental patient, literally, who couldn't even talk and was drooling, according to witnesses. He can't get on the plane. Sharp-dressed man has such authority. He orders him on the plane with no ID of any type. That's the underwear bomber. I mean, it's the same story over and over again. It's been admitted that the emails to Al-Awlaki from Hassan at Fort Hood, and they won't give the full emails to Congress, and that they knew for 2 years he was planning, and he was asking Al-Awlaki, what do I do, your lordship? I'm preparing to attack. I mean, this is just unbelievable. And who knows if Hassan even did anything, because they're erasing cell phone tapes, videos, and other things that witnesses shot. But, I mean, it's just so transparent. Comment on that, and then briefly, why do you think this document got leaked, and its authenticity's been confirmed, to Fox News? Because, I mean, I think I know the answer. The spin here is, oh, good people in the Pentagon were concerned. This was just an accident. But give us your take on that, Webster.
Well, certainly with Hassan, you'll remember that the original reports, and I think I wrote this up at the time, the original reports on Hassan were that there were other shooters. There were 1, 2 other shooters. And
there was a security drill going on, so exactly. It's always the same.
The other thing, of course, it's good that you mentioned the Muslim Brotherhood, because the neocons like to throw this around. The Muslim Brotherhood was created by British intelligence in Egypt in the 1920s because they wanted to counteract Egyptian modernizing nationalism, people who wanted to have a modern nation state, and the British wanted to have a counter gang that they could. Well,
that's like Iraq. I mean, they kicked Saddam out. That was an older policy of modernization, and the women now are wearing the burqas.
Yes, and it's a continuity. The Muslim Brotherhood really came into its own under President Nasser of Egypt, who was the classical figure of progressive, modernizing Arab nationalism with a good chance to build a powerful country. And of course, the Muslim Brotherhood was mobilized to try to sabotage that, and Nasser put a lot of them in jail. He treated them very brutally, needless to say. So a lot of these groups are the second and third generation of the original Muslim Brotherhood. But again, this is not an authentic, spontaneous creation of the culture and history of the Middle East. It's an implant by British intelligence now with the U.S. Playing a big role.
Well, take a SWAT on 7/7. BBC headline. In fact, pull it up. A SWAT mastermind of 7/7 MI6, and they protected him even after. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.